What's up? Sean BritzFitz here, aka BritzFitz, here with another episode of the BritzFitz podcast. I am very excited to bring what we have going on here today with the BritzFitz podcast, because it is the two things that will absolutely transform your life forever. When you implement these two things into your life, your whole life starts to change, your whole entire mindset, your whole entire perspective, your interpretation on things. Everything slowly starts to change. And it all starts with these two things that I'm going to be talking about here today. Before we get started, though, I did want to give a little bit of an announcement. I do, if you do not know as of right now, but I do have an event. It's called the Beast Unleashed Seminar coming up here in September timeframe. It's going to be 9 September in San Diego. And this event is going to be an absolute life-changing event. And to mind you, holding an event and hosting an event like this has been a dream for myself for years and years on out. And I'm telling you right here, right now, is that I am giving my all to this event. And my goal is to give people the experience of a lifetime. They walk in one person and they walk out a completely different, transformed person within their life that will have a breakthrough that will propel them to go closer and get closer and closer and to achieve those dreams and destroy any sort of limiting beliefs, any sort of obstacles standing in their way. They're that type of person when they walk out of that event. And if you want to be that type of person, just DM me on Instagram. My Instagram is going to be BritzFitz17, or you could hit me up on any other of my social media platforms. Most of my other social media platforms are BritzFitz. So hit me up if you are interested, and I'll add you to the list once we get the whole sales page, everything put together. And just because I'm nice, if you hit me up before and you hit me up, I'm going to give you a promo code to get 50% off on the tickets of going to this upcoming event. So at the end of the day, it's not about me, it's not about the money, it's about you. It's about serving the people that are going to be coming to this event, and it's going to be an experience of a lifetime, and you definitely don't want to miss out. But anyways, moving on to the actual video itself, is the two things. You might be asking, what are these two things that you are talking about that's going to transform my life, that's going to absolutely just change my whole world? Well, I'll tell you. Those two things that are going to transform your world is, number one, gratitude. Now, you might be thinking, oh, I'm grateful for things. I could be grateful for things. What? Gratitude. Okay? This is going to change your world if you become more grateful over time. And two is service. Serving others. I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into both of these two things, but these two things are absolutely going to transform your life and your perspective. And just listen up. All right? So gratitude, reason being, let's start with number one, gratitude, right? Gratitude, the reason being why gratitude is so freaking important is because it destroys and completely cancels out the two other emotions or feelings that destroy most people's lives. What are those feelings and emotions? Fear and anger. Having fear and anger in your life, that's what most people are going through in today's day of age. And with the focus on fear and anger, it completely destroys your perspective, destroys your willingness to move forward, progress forward. And with gratitude, it destroys those. The more and more you become grateful for things. And I'm talking about being just grateful for even the smallest little things. Maybe it's something that someone just said to you. Maybe it's a simple text that someone sent to you. Maybe it's just a simple little service. Someone bought you dinner. Someone bought you some water. Whatever it might be. Regardless of how small or how big the moment of your life is, that those moments of your life are, become grateful for them. And no matter who you are, where you come from, what you do, there is always something that you can be grateful for and give gratitude for. Because when you don't essentially give as much appreciation and gratitude for the things that come into your life and everything, essentially that's where your focus is going. So it's either you go down two paths, right? You either go down the path of fear and anger and putting your focus on the things that mostly what you don't have, right? So for an example, right? I used to own a coaching business just recently with men who are going through breakups, and I would help men with that. And essentially, whenever I would hop on a sales call to be able to introduce them to my program and everything, I would be going through the sales script. And the beginning of the sales script is, okay, what's going on? What's your situation? What are you struggling with? What's your obstacles, right? They could tell me about that for hours and ages. She did this. I feel like this. This is horrible. I'm going through this. I need help with this. Da 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 da. Right? As soon as I moved on to, okay, so what is your goal? What is your outcome? What do you want moving forward? They would sit there and be, yeah, I really don't know. And that's just one little example, but in that sense, where your focus goes, your energy flows. And what most people are focusing on is on what they don't have. When you focus on what you don't have, guess what? That's not gratitude. Because gratitude is focusing on the things you do have in your life and becoming thankful for them. And literally when you focus on the things that you do have in your life and what you are thankful for, it literally starts to change your biochemistry inside. Because your brain, your emotions, and your brain is interconnected with your whole entire body as well. So whatever is starting to change up here into your mind, it starts to change what's going on with your whole body as well. Right? Where your focus goes, your energy flows. And there's a quote from Joe Dispenza, and I absolutely love this quote. It's so freaking true. But emotions are just energy in motion. Right? And I say that the most important thing that you can do is as soon as you wake up, it's a new day. To attack the day, wake up with gratitude. Wake up feeling the feelings and the emotion of gratitude, gratefulness, and being thankful for the things that you do have. Because as soon as you do that first thing in the morning, as soon as you wake up, guess what? That determines what that day is going to look like for the rest of the day. It's going to be 10 times harder for things, chaos, crazy things in the external world to affect you if you're constantly reinforcing that gratitude every single day, every single morning. Because when you start your morning off right, the rest of the day becomes so much easier and so much better moving forward, right? And obviously, just like what I said, most people really focus on what they don't have, right? And that even goes for relationships. A lot of people have a lot of expectations for certain people, that they expect them to be a certain way, to talk a certain way, to do certain things in a relationship, and they should have done this, they should have done that for me. So much expectations onto this person or a past person that they used to be around. And if that other person doesn't reach their expectations, there's disappointment. There's disappointment that usually happens, and that disappointment turns into resentment, right? They get into an argument, whatever it might be. They're arguing back and forth about finances, or arguing back and forth about some little small petty thing that they might have done, right? That disappointment of that expectation feels resentment inside of you, right? And that's the only thing. Like, if you are holding on to a resentment towards another person, towards another individual right now, I'm here to let you know that you are the only one that is being affected by that. It's not affecting the other person, it's only affecting you. Because what resentment is literally like drinking poison and expecting it to affect the other person. But you're the one drinking the poison. So how is it going to affect the other person? It's not. Resentment is poison inside of your soul. And the more and more and more you hold on to that resentment, the more and more you're poisoning yourself, you're destroying yourself, you're dying on the inside of your whole entire soul. And guess what? You are doing that to yourself if you hold on to that resentment. So moving forward, how do you get rid of that resentment? Well, there's this exercise, right? I'll give you guys a little bit of the story of myself. Is that from my past relationships, right? Both of my past relationships didn't go too well, right? The first one, it was with this girl who I thought I loved, and all of a sudden it went downhill, and she was a completely different person than who I thought she was, right? And I ended up having to leave her and everything. It was kind of chaotic. And then the next relationship, I was actually in a relationship with a woman that I felt like I really did love and I connected with. However, I made a huge mistake. I was rambunctious. One night, I remember this night like it was yesterday. One night, I was rolling my little sleeves for my military uniform. She's there on FaceTime. And a lot of it was kind of a long-distance relationship. But when we came together, it was like PB&J. It was amazing. But she was on FaceTime, and I could just tell from her facial features and everything, there was something that was pissing her off. And it started to piss me off. And beforehand, who I used to be this person that would be so passive-aggressive and hold on to so many things that made me angry and not express them, not confront other people that it made me angry. I would just hold on to it over and over and over. I was this passive-aggressive person. And by me doing that in the long term, all that built up anger built up more and more and more and more. And by doing that, eventually, I reached this boiling point. And when I would reach this boiling point, all hell would absolutely break loose. I would absolutely ravish on people, regardless of who you are, even the people that I love the most. I would just go crazy because I would reach this boiling point. Another example when I reached that boiling point was way back when I was a little kid. I was so angry one time when me and my sister were playing Wii, and she beat me at tennis, and I threw the controller at her, and I was so angry. That's just to give you a little bit of an idea of who I used to be as a kid, right? Before. And that's who I was at this relationship with this girl, was that I got so pissed off that I freaked out on her just seeing that she was pissed off. And I said the words, "What the hell is wrong with you?" Just like that. I just yelled at her like that. And obviously, that started an argument, back and forth, screaming, back and forth, back and forth. And then eventually we had to hang up. And the biggest mistake that I did in that past relationship was that I texted her, I'm done. I can't do this no more. And again, mind you, when we come together, it's like PB&J. It was a beautiful relationship. It was so much better than my last relationship, and I loved it. But just because we got into an argument, just because I reached that boiling point, just because I was holding so much back, I felt like I needed to give up. And I made that mistake. And I tried to call her the next day, trying to apologize, beg for her back, and she wasn't having any of it. And I was heartbroken. And that's the beautiful thing, is that from our relationships, or just from our experiences in general in life, is that life lessons are learned from our past experiences. The biggest life lessons are learned from our past experiences. And the worst experiences are the best lessons. Because it really teaches you what not to do the next time. Sure, the good experiences, when you actually win something, you celebrate, you're like, yeah, it teaches you something, you did something right. But you continue to keep doing that. But from your bad experiences, now you learn, okay, what are my weaknesses? What are the things that I falter in? What is the thing that I did that I could be doing better the next time? And you could start to dissect it, but you can only dissect it if you take responsibility for it. See, that's the thing that I struggled with so long after that heartbreak, that I struggled so much to be able to take responsibility. And I kept pointing the finger at, it was her, she did this, she did that, da-da-da-da-da. And then it wasn't until I realized that I needed to take responsibility for this in order to become a leader, not of others, but a leader in my life in general. And the reason why I give that story is because I held on to so much resentment from both my past ex and, both of my past exes. And there wasn't until maybe, I'd say 6 months ago, something like that, that I was talking to my friend. My best friend, I talk to him all the time. And I was giving him the story, a little bit more of the story of how one of my my very, very first past relationship was. And when I finished that story, he really pointed it out, and he woke me up to everything, to all of this resentment I was building up. And he said, "Do you notice that it was always about her and how she fucked up and everything from how you told that story?" And it really woke me up, because I was like, because at this point I knew I needed to take responsibility. However, my narrative, my story about my past experiences were not reflecting that. And he pointed that out to me, and it really woke me up. I was like, wow, that's so true. So then I went on this little journey, because at that point I thought I was 100% healed from my relationship. I was all good, but I wasn't. Few months later, right? I get introduced to this course. And I dive into this course. It's called Create Your Life with Transform Destiny. They're an NLP Institute, amazing company. If you want to learn about NLP, I highly suggest them. But I was watching a virtual course of their Create the Life course. And there was this one exercise called Ho'oponopono. And it was an exercise that was developed from the Hawaiian culture. And it's what they would do all the time in order to completely release any sort of energy and completely refresh any sort of energy that you have between you and another person. I thought it was very interesting because it was a way that you could refresh that energy. You could basically restart the relationship from square one. So I was so interested. So I did it, and I did the Ho'oponopono exercise on both of my past relationships with both of my exes. And afterwards, I literally tested it out. Did the Ho'oponopono exercise for one of them. And what I did, might be thinking I'm weird, but I went on their Instagram. I looked at a picture of them. And I really focused on what I thought, how I felt, my emotions towards this picture, right? And I literally didn't feel anything except for happiness. I felt good for them. I felt happy for them. And I was like, holy crap, because beforehand, when I would look at a picture, I'd be like, oh, yeah, screw her. She's horrible. I don't like that. No. After that Ho'oponopono exercise, I looked at it and I felt nothing. And that was the moment that I truly felt like I healed. That I truly, truly healed. And I became so grateful for that exercise. And so grateful that was the moment when I healed. And realized that resentment never serves anybody. So no matter who you are, what you go through, and if you're holding on to a resentment from somebody, from an argument, from a past relationship of a bad experience from someone or whatever, your ex, whatever it might be, if you're holding on to that resentment, it's not serving you in any way whatsoever. If anything, it's holding you back. Because that's what resentment can do. It can hold you back. How? Because what a lot of people do is that they hold on to that resentment and they use that resentment, that past experience, as excuses for their future moving forward. So what I mean by that is that a lot of people, right, they use those as excuses. You ever hear someone say, right, let's say they're pursuing another relationship, another girl, right? And a guy gets heartbroken from a girl and all that sort of jazz. They pursue another relationship. When they pursue the next relationship and everything, there might be that resentment towards, this girl's going to screw me over like my ex. She's going to screw me over. She's going to do something, screw me over. She did this, blah, 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 right? Their interpretation is so fixated on the past experience. On the past experience from their ex, and they think their ex is this same type of person or somebody who is similar to this person, or it might happen, It creates that fear, just like what I said, fear and anger are the two biggest things that destroy people's future and their success. And it creates this fear of interpretation on your future relationships when you hold on to that resentment. But once that resentment is completely released, now you no longer have the fear of stepping into another relationship. You no longer have a fear of stepping into that new business or that new career or that new fitness and nutrition routine. So stepping out into something new without holding on to that resentment destroys so many excuses you might make moving forward in your life to be able to create that success for yourself. Whatever it might be, your relationships, your business, whatever. So what I ask is to absolutely release that resentment inside of your soul. Think of one person that you might feel resentment for as of right now. Whatever it might be, past experience of an argument where you guys screamed at each other, you you said something to them, or they said something to you, or they wronged you in some way. Think of that one person and really think deep of why. Why are you holding on to this resentment? Because the more and more you hold on to this resentment, the more and more you're not serving yourself. If anything, you're killing yourself on the inside. And it's not hurting the other person. Ask yourself, is this me holding on to this resentment? Is this hurting them more than me, or is it hurting me more than them? 10 times out of 10, all the time, it's always hurting you more than it's hurting them. Why? Because they're not even consciously aware that you're holding on to all that resentment. Only you are. And the only person who is consciously aware of it, and the most consciously aware of it, is the one who's being hurt the most. So, from there on out, instead of with your past relationships and everything, instead of holding on to that resentment, there was expectations that were set in that past, right? The bad experience happened and you got disappointed. Disappointment comes from those expectations. So look at that old person, that old experience, whatever it might be, eliminate those expectations you had for that person, and instead transform and shift your focus on the appreciation for that experience. You might be thinking, I can't appreciate an experience, like an argument or a horrible thing that this person wronged me with, or da 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 da. Shift your expectation to appreciation. There is always something. It doesn't matter what experience, what thing that you went through, there is always something you can appreciate from every single experience in your life, even the bad ones. You look at the bad ones, and guess what? There's bound to be something that you learned within that experience. Regardless if it was something that you learned about yourself, it was something that you learned about the other person, it was something that you learned about how you want to move into the type of people that you want to surround yourself around, essentially. You learned something, so identify, dissect it, that past experience. Find out what you learned, what you grew from, and what you progressed with from having that experience, and how that experience created you to be who you are today. And become grateful for it. Appreciate it. And I'm not talking about just thinking, oh, I'm so grateful and everything. No, feel it. Feel yourself being grateful for it. Appreciate it. Because once you start appreciating the bad experiences, you eliminate all those expectations, you eliminate the disappointment and the resentment that you are holding on to. And you shift your focus no longer on what you could have had or that you should have had or whatever, but instead you shift your focus onto what I do have, what I did get out of this. That's how you should view every single experience moving forward, regardless good or bad. What was it that you got out of it? What do you have out of it? What did you learn? What did you grow from? Focus on that. And once you start focusing on that, that's when your whole world starts to change. And that's when you become more grateful and give more gratitude for every single little experience of your life. Right? And one last thing I wanted to also say on gratitude before we move on to the second one is that it's very, very important to be present in the moment. Whatever moment of time that you are currently in right now, and whatever you need to put your freaking focus on, whatever it might be, your career, your business, or you're in the present moment of your relationship, wherever you are present, be present. Be present in the moment. Don't think of what do I have to do the next day? What do I have to do tomorrow? And think of the moment, because this is one thing that I struggle with myself. I was so future oriented. What type of task do I need to do the next day? What type of task do I need to do next week? Oh, I have this event coming up this week. I was so not present in the moment. But then it wasn't until recently that I started to slowly focus my energy to be present. And it doesn't happen overnight. You have to slowly start to shift your energy to be in the present. Not in the future, or not even in the past either. Because a lot of people focus a lot of their energy on the past. Complaining, wishing they could have had that, wishing blah blah blah, this person screwed me over. Not the future, not the present, or not the future, not the past, but be present. This same exact moment, this same exact minute, second, millisecond that you are currently experiencing right now, with every single experience, be there, be present. Because when you are present, you are able to show up and bring the best version of you. And you can feel all the feelings and the sensation of that experience at a much higher level. And it's easier to become grateful for them. So, gratitude. Become grateful for everything that you do have in your life. So, and the most important thing, moving forward, wake up in the mornings and become grateful for at least 3 things in your life. Whatever that might be, however small it might be. You have food in your fridge, you got a roof over your head, your kids, your family, your partner, or you're just grateful for the job that you have, whatever it might be. Think of 3 things in your life that you could become grateful for. And I guarantee you that you do have at least 3 things in your life you could become grateful for. There's always things to be grateful for. No matter what you do, there's always things to be grateful for. And do that first thing in the morning, and it changes the rest of your day moving forward. And keep on doing this, keep repping it out, keep on doing this process, and your life will slowly start to transform. Moving on to number 2 is service. Service. What do I mean by service? I'm talking about we live in a very selfish society, a selfish world, where we're all fixated and focused on, I need to make my money, I need to make money, I need to take care of myself, I need to get my groceries, I need mine, I need my car, I need my house, I want my Rolex, I want mine. It's a very selfish type of society and world that we live in, and some of it is due to the environment and social media and so many different external influences in our life that influences us to be this certain way. The thing is, though, is that by living that selfish world, by living the world that the society and world wants you to live, essentially, by being this selfish world, and being this selfish and only focusing on yourself and only giving to yourself, you don't get filled inside. There's no sense of fulfillment. There's no love. There's nothing that fills you up. I kind of like to explain it like this. Think of like a strainer. A strainer, like the little plastic bowl, but with holes at the very bottom, right? It's like putting the strainer, right? Let's say you get all the money in the world, right? You become a millionaire. But you don't give any of those, any money to anybody whatsoever, right? And you just buy the Rolex, you buy your freaking car of your dreams, your mansion, whatever. But you don't give any of that money away. By not serving, it's like taking that strainer, putting it under a faucet, turning it on, and expecting that strainer to get filled up. But guess what? It's never going to get filled up because there's holes at the bottom. There is something that is stopping you from being filled on the inside when you reach that higher level. When you become that millionaire, when you become that billionaire, when you get successful where you want to be. If you're not serving other people, others, and giving to others in some way, some form, while you are constantly evolving, you have an empty strainer. Instead, how to change that strainer into an actual bowl or a pot where there's no holes at the bottom. That's the moment once you start using your success, using your money, using your power, using what you have in order to serve others. And when you start to serve others, those holes disappear and that strainer turns into a bowl. That strainer turns into a pot. And now it can start being filled all the way up. And that's when you constantly keep serving. Right? And I have a little bit of a story of the moment when I served, right? And it could be even, I'm not talking about that you need to serve when you're a millionaire, billionaire, or whatever, right? No. Like, it's just simple, whoever, where you are, or whatever, like, just serve, give to someone. And I'm not saying only give money. Give some sort of value, some sort of massive value to another person. More knowledge, more perspective, more wisdom, whatever it might be. Just give, and give. But don't give too much to where you completely neglect yourself, right? I have this saying, right? Is that you need to evolve. While you're evolving, you must be giving. And when you do give, you receive. Because the thing is that the more that you serve other people, the more that they will want to serve you. Because simply not enough people in this world like to serve other people, that want the best for other people. And when they see you, they recognize that you want the best for them and you're interested in them and you want to serve them. They're like, oh crap, this is a new experience. I like this dude because he cares about me. Since he cares about me, I'm going to care about him. But the thing is that you don't expect to receive anything in return. Just like what I said in the last, with gratitude, trade expectation for appreciation. Right? When you're evolving and you're giving people, just appreciate that you are able to give that value to them, to help them in some sort of way, to have them grow in some sort of way. Regardless if they don't give you or anything afterwards, don't focus on that. Focus on that you helped this person. You gave value to this person. And that's what matters. Because when you give value to other people, you start to fill up your pot. You start to fill up your bowl within. I have a little story of the time when I served somebody, especially at a time when that I could have just said no, right? And it was a night. It was a night when I was hanging out with my friends. And to mind you, the night before, I was watching this video. It was from Tony Robbins. He was explaining this story of how of a moment when he was broke. And he only had about $26 total. This was way before. This was when he was younger. I think he was around like 20 something. And he only had $26. And he went to an all-you-could-eat buffet. He loaded up all the food, the buffet, right? And when he loaded up, he ate. He paid for it, about $6. So he had about $19 in total, $20 in total. As he was about to start walking out, he watches this little boy open this door. Absolute gentleman. Like, he looked like this absolute gentleman. He perceived himself and projected himself as this gentleman, opening this door for his mother, walking in, seating her, and everything. And it touched Tony. He saw that, and he was like, dang, I don't know what it is, but that little boy is a gentleman, and I need to talk to this little boy. So he went up and he approached this little boy, introduced himself. Hey, my name's Tony, and all this sort of jazz. And he couldn't do anything but recognize, like, you are such a gentleman. You are such an amazing little boy here and everything, serving your woman right here. And the little boy says, the little boy says, it's not my woman, it's my mom. And he says, that's even better that it's your mom. And you know what? You're going to serve your mom here with dinner tonight. And he's like, and the little boy says, I can't. I don't have any money. I don't have a job. And what Tony does, mind you, again, he only has about $20 in his pocket. And Tony says, sure you can. And he takes the $20 out of his pocket, everything he had. That would leave him at $0. Everything he had, put the $20 on the table, and said, you're going to serve your mom for dinner tonight. And the little boy's like, I can't take this. And Tony's like, sure you can. Little boy's like, yeah, why? Tony says, because I'm bigger than you. And then from there, he just walked out. And Tony explains it the best. But when he walked out, he had all the right. He had all the right to have his focus on in the sense of how he's going to pay his rent the next few days, how he's going to pay for his bills, how he's going to pay for groceries. He has zero money. He could have started freaking out about that. Instead, he felt this fulfillment of gratitude and gratefulness that he was able to give to that little boy. That he was able to serve that little boy in some way. Even at the moment when he felt like he couldn't serve, he still served. And Tony Robbins has this thing that he says, I love it, but he says, if you won't give $1 out of 10, you won't give 100,000 out of 1,000,000. And that's so true. So regardless of what point you are at in your life, let's say you're absolutely broke. Again, I'm not talking about only giving money, but if you're broke, you're going through something or whatever, serve in some way. Find a way that you can evolve and you can serve and help others, regardless of what it might be, even if it's the smallest little thing of just purchasing a water for someone, regardless if that's just texting someone and saying how grateful you are of them and you love them because of XYZ and be sincere about it, right? When I watched that interview and I watched that story after Tony Robbins, I felt this sense in my head of, oh my gosh, like, I want to feel that feeling. I want to feel that feeling of in the sense of, since I don't have much, because at that time, mind you, I only had $300 in my bank account. And at that time, I want to feel that feeling of like almost not having anything, but giving to people, giving to someone. And I wanted that feeling. I manifested it. I thought about it. I really wanted to feel it. I'm not kidding you. The next day, I was hanging out with my friends late at night. And we're at this club. We're at this line dancing club. It's called Stampede, right? And there's a little arcade section. Me and my friends were over there at the arcade section. And the arcade section, the arcade machine of the punching bag, right? You got to punch the punching bag as hard as you can. It gives you a score. We were doing that. And I do my round. I give a punch. I get about 800, something around there. I'm like, yeah. And we finished up with that machine, and I turned around, and there's this short little Latina chick sitting there with a basket full of candy canes. And she comes up to me and she's like, "Excuse me, sir, you have time?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course." And she says to me, yeah, I'm just going around. I'm trying to sell candy canes to people and everything if anyone wants any candy canes. Reason being is because I'm trying to raise money. And this, mind you, this is before Christmas time frame. I'm trying to raise money for my daughter to give her the best Christmas I possibly can, because what happened was that I got a divorce and we moved out, and now we're actually homeless. And right then and there, I felt it. I was like, oh my gosh, like, that that made me feel, I'm like, dude, I have to give in some way. And at first, I was like, okay, what do you take? I'll buy some candy canes. She's like, oh, yeah, sure. And I'm like, okay, I'll give you $15. How does that sound? All right, cool. Give her $15. Cash app her, right? And we talked a little bit more afterwards, and I was asking her, like, how long have you been out here doing all this? And she's like, oh, about 6 hours. And she's been coming across a whole bunch of people and everything, and most people don't really give. And she said one thing in particular of an experience with another guy earlier that night, was that she went up to him saying the same thing that she did with me. Hey, I'm trying to serve. I'm trying to sell candy canes for my daughter, give her a good Christmas, right? And this guy asked, how much do you want? She said, honestly, I would be so thankful and so grateful. $200 would be basically all that I would ask for. And the guy right then and there, not kidding you, what she told me was that the guy sat there, he pulled out $200, two $100 bills, $200, waved it in front of her face, and said, you see this? Well, you're not going to have it. Puts it back into his pocket and walks the fuck away. And right then and there, I thought at that moment, law of attraction, something, God brought this into my life, something, because I was just thinking of the last night I was just watching about the Tony Robbins story and how I wanted to feel the sense of giving once again. And right then and there at that moment, I'm like, this is the perfect opportunity to give when I almost have nothing. Mind you, again, I only have $300 in my bank account. And what I do is that I'm like, you know what? Screw this. Pull out my Cash App again, and I cashed after $200 freaking dollars, leaving only $100 in my bank account at that time. And she's like, you don't have to do that. You don't have to. And I'm like, no, something in my soul right here, right now is telling me I have to do this. So I proceeded with it, and I did it. She's like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful. Thank you. And it just left this huge smile on my face, just knowing that I did that. We hugged, and we walked off, right, from each other, go our separate ways. And later that night, I had to deal with my friends. My friends were off doing their own things. They were a little crazy, right? And anyways, me and my friends were going to stay the night at my place for that night. We drove back to my place and everything. Once we got all settled in, they were about to go to sleep and everything. But what I did was that I put on my jacket, put on my shoes, and I went outside. I went out for a long, nice night walk. And I sat down on this picnic bench that I like to sit down on whenever I go for night walks around my area. And I just sat there and really thought in my head, what just happened? How I literally just watched the Tony Robbins interview about that whole entire story with the little boy and everything the day before this day. And I sat there just thinking about it more and more and more. And the more I thought about it, I started to tear up. I started to cry. And literally I felt this sense of gratitude and gratefulness that I was able to serve this woman by giving her the $200 when I nearly almost had nothing. Again, in this sense, I had a lot of anxiety. I could have had a lot of anxiety of focusing on, I only have $100 in my bank account. Oh my God, I'm freaking out. Instead, I was just focusing on how I just served this person, how I just gave this person something amazing when I almost had nothing. It's the times when you almost have nothing are the times to serve the most that you can. Because when you start to serve, you will get rewarded. You evolve, you give, and you receive, but you don't expect. You live by those principles and you serve other people by doing that constantly over and over and over again, with regardless of what you might be doing, your business, your career, your relationships, giving to your partner, giving to your friends, giving to your family. Just serve. That should be one of your life missions, whatever it might be. Just serve in your own way. And once you can serve, and you serve in your own way, and you just stay true to who you are, and you constantly keep evolving, there are going to be beautiful times that are going to be rewarded to you in the future, because it's the ones that serve the most that get rewarded the most. And I'm not talking about only getting rewarded with money. No, I'm talking about your spiritual energy. You get rewarded with a higher level of spiritual energy. You get rewarded with more emotional feelings of happiness and gratitude and fulfillment. You get rewarded with just this sense of fulfillment inside, and you start to, instead of having a strainer, you turn it into a pot, and you actually start feeling like you are filling yourself within once you start serving other people. Right? So my question is how can you serve someone else today? Today, as you are listening to this podcast as of right now, how can you serve someone today? Regardless of what that is, regardless of how small or big it might be, what is one way you could serve someone? It could be something small like sending a text to someone and being sincere and saying, I recognize when you did this and I love you for it because of XYZ. It could be even sending a text message like that. It could be going up to someone and saying that. It could be simply just buying something small like a water. Oh my gosh. My bad. But by buying a water, buying someone food, or just by genuinely just focusing on someone's success and appreciating them for it, thanking them for it, celebrating with them for it. What is one way that you can serve someone today? And that you should ask yourself every single day that. How can I serve another person today to become better, to give them more value, to make them into a better person? Because once you start changing your life to where you start giving more gratitude for the things that you do have in your life and no longer focus on the things you don't have in your life, and once you start changing your perspective of, instead of me, I need to have this, I need to have that, instead you're focusing on how can I serve others, how can I make others better while you're constantly evolving. Once you do these two things, your whole entire world starts to change. And you will literally transform your life forever. And any sort of fear, any sort of anger that you feel within starts to slowly disappear. Because the thing is that when you feel grateful and you're focusing on service, fear and anger do not align with those things at all. And it completely cancels that fear and anger out and destroys it. Not saying you never feel any sense of fear or anger, but it becomes suppressed. It becomes more suppressed where you don't feel that fear or that anger when you constantly feed your mind with more gratitude and more service to others. Whichever one you focus on the most is the one that will become more powerful than the other. So once you start focusing on gratitude and service more than fear or anger itself, the gratitude and service is going to be greater. And the gratitude and the service are the things that are actually going to fill up your pot, fill up your cup inside, and truly give you that sense of fulfillment and peace within. So how can you serve someone today? Ask yourself that and take action on it. Take action on it. Doesn't matter what happens, take action on it today so you could start to create this to become a habit for yourself and stick to it. And understand that you are that person. You are that person that serves others, that can provide to others, that can give value to others. Regardless of who you are, you have something to give to others. And become grateful for it. Become grateful for things. See the good in people, not the bad. How can you serve someone today? And what are 3 things you could become grateful for today? And take action on the both of those. Okay? Anyways, that's going to be it for the BritzFitz podcast. Thank you for joining. Once again, call to action, the Beast Unleashed event. If you want to experience more of this, more of powerful knowledge and massive value like this, but at a whole nother level and being added with an experience of a lifetime, the Beast Unleashed seminar is coming up 9 September this year. And that is an event you do not want to miss. Trust me. Like I said, this is a dream of mine, and I'm giving it my all, 100% for every single one of you. Okay? So if you're interested in learning how you can get your tickets and be able to go to that event, DM me on Instagram or any sort of my other social medias. BritzFitz17 is me on Instagram, and most of my other social medias usually BritzFitz. All right? So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed today's BritzFitz podcast. This is going to be a weekly thing. Every single week, I'm going to be posting an episode for a podcast, and here in the near future, I'm going to start to get some guests that we can actually have join us on this journey as well, so that we can even get different perspectives than only just mine. Okay? So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed today's episode with the 2 things that are absolutely going to transform your life. Implement these 2 things, and they will transform your life. I guarantee it. Become more grateful and serve others. And once you do that, everything starts to change. But start to implement that today, and I will see you guys in the next episode. BritzFitz out.